You think you're reading these words by choice, but that sensation of voluntary attention is yet another illusion your brain manufactures to maintain the fantasy of control. Every moment of consciousness, every flicker of thought, every seemingly spontaneous impulse flows from an impossibly complex cascade of prior causes, none of which you authored. The very notion that you possess some ethereal essence, a soul or self that hovers above the machinery of mind and matter, directing traffic, dissolves under scrutiny like morning mist in harsh sunlight. Consider what happens when you make a choice. Neural activity builds in your brain as motor and prefrontal regions before you're consciously aware of any intention to act. Your decisions are made backstage, then announced to consciousness after the fact. This isn't speculation, it's demonstrated science. Researchers can watch these decision-making processes unfold in real time using fMRI, seeing the choice crystallize in your neural architecture before you know you've made it. The implications are staggering. Your conscious experience of deciding is more like watching a delayed broadcast than participating in a live event. You're not the producer. You're the audience. Even your thoughts arrive unbidden. Try to predict your next thought. You can't. They simply appear in consciousness, products of neural processes outside your awareness or control. Your beliefs, values, and desires, the very things you think define yourself, were installed by evolution, culture, and circumstance long before you developed the capacity to question them. Every preference, from your taste in music to your political leanings, can be traced to factors outside your control. Genetics, upbringing, peer influence, random exposure to ideas and experiences. The feeling that you could have chosen differently in any given moment is an illusion, a story you tell yourself after the fact to maintain the comforting fiction of agency. If you truly had free will, you would need to be the ultimate cause of your own nature, but this is logically impossible. You can't create yourself before you exist. Your brain is a prediction machine, constantly generating models of reality and behavior based on past experience, but you didn't choose its architecture or initial programming. Even your most carefully reasoned decisions emerge from mental processes you didn't design, operating according to rules you didn't write, using information you didn't choose to acquire. The sense of self, the feeling of being a unified consciousness piloting a body through space and time, is itself a construct, a useful fiction generated by neural networks. Split brain studies reveal how fragile this illusion is. Sever the corpus callosum connecting the brain's hemispheres, and two separate streams of consciousness emerge, each unaware of the other. Your memories, which seem to provide continuity and coherence to your sense of self, are constantly being rewritten and reconstructed. They're more like historical fiction than documentary. The very language you use to think about these issues was absorbed from your environment, shaping and constraining your ability to conceptualize alternatives. Your emotional responses, which feel deeply personal and freely chosen, are automatic reactions triggered by environmental stimuli and internal states you didn't select. The moral implications are profound. If no one authors their own nature, how can anyone be ultimately praiseworthy or blameworthy for their actions? Traditional notions of justice and desert crumble when we realize that criminals and saints alike are products of circumstances beyond their control. Your successes and failures, your virtues and vices, your moments of strength and weakness, all emerge from a causal chain stretching back before your birth. The idea that you could have done otherwise assumes an impossible ability to transcend the very causes that make you who you are. Even your capacity for rational deliberation, weighing options, considering consequences, is itself determined by factors outside your control: intelligence, education, emotional stability. The sensation of mental effort, of struggling with a decision or resisting an impulse, is real, but it's not evidence of free will. It's just consciousness experiencing the brain's processing. Your apparent ability to change and grow over time isn't evidence of free will either. Those changes are themselves caused by experiences and influences you didn't choose. The very desire to improve yourself stems from causes, perhaps exposure to inspiring role models, or the pain of past failures, or genetic predispositions toward conscientiousness. Your most deeply held convictions, religious, political, moral, can often be predicted by where and when you were born, who raised you, what books you happen to read. The intuition that you're free persists because it's useful. It motivates action and enables social coordination, but utility does not equal truth. Evolution shaped our minds to feel like autonomous agents because this illusion enhanced survival and reproduction, not because it accurately reflects reality. Your brain creates explanations for your behavior after the fact, confabulating reasons for actions that were actually triggered by unconscious processes. The sense of ownership over your thoughts is itself a thought, another mental content appearing in consciousness without your consent or control. Your attention, which seems voluntary, is actually captured and directed by factors beyond your awareness: salience, novelty, emotional significance. Even your most private mental experiences, your inner voice, your visual imagination, operate according to rules and constraints you didn't choose. The feeling of making an effort of will is real, but the will itself is not some ghostly force outside the causal chain. It's part of the machinery. Your personality traits, which feel core to your identity, are largely inherited. Twin studies show genetics account for roughly half of personality variation. The environmental factors that shape the other half of your personality, family dynamics, peer groups, cultural influences, were similarly outside your control. Your habits, which comprise much of your daily behavior, form through reinforcement learning processes that operate largely below conscious awareness. The illusion of free will is so compelling because we experience only the final product of our brain's processing, not the countless causes leading to it. Your sense of self is more like a news feed than a control center. It receives reports of decisions after they're made rather than making them. The experience of deliberation, weighing options, considering consequences, is real, but the outcome is determined by factors outside conscious control. Your preferences can shift dramatically based on context, mood, and physical state. Yet we maintain the fiction that some stable self is choosing. Even your most carefully reasoned philosophical positions are shaped by emotional and intuitive processes operating outside awareness. The very concept of responsibility assumes a kind of causation that physics doesn't allow for. A first cause, uncaused by prior events. Your brain's reward systems, which drive much of your behavior, were shaped by evolution to maximize survival and reproduction, not truth or freedom. The sense of agency, of being the author of your thoughts and actions, is itself a thought that appears in consciousness unbidden. Your decision-making is influenced by countless subtle factors: ambient temperature, blood glucose levels, time of day, recent experiences. The belief in free will persists partly because it's painful to accept that our most personal qualities are not truly our own. Your moral intuitions, which feel like pure rational insights, are products of evolution, culture, and circumstance. The legal system's focus on punishment assumes a kind of responsibility that doesn't exist, yet we maintain it because it seems pragmatically useful. Your capacity for self-control, which feels like evidence of free will, is itself determined by factors like genetics, stress levels, and sleep quality. The very language we use to discuss free will, choice, decision, intention, presupposes a kind of causation that science doesn't support. Your emotional reactions, which feel deeply personal, follow predictable patterns based on personality traits and past experiences. The sense of being a unified self persists despite clear evidence that consciousness is more like a coalition of sub-processes than a singular entity. Your beliefs about free will itself were shaped by your culture, education, and the particular arguments you happen to encounter. The feeling of ownership over your thoughts is an evolutionary adaptation, not an accurate representation of their origins. Your attention, which seems voluntary, is constantly being captured and directed by factors outside conscious awareness. The experience of mental effort is real, but the outcome is determined by factors beyond your control. Your deepest values and commitments emerged from a complex interplay of genetics, environment, and experience, not free choice. The sensation of deliberation creates an illusion of control, but the process itself is deterministic. Your personality, which feels essential to who you are, is largely a product of factors you didn't choose. The belief in free will serves useful social functions but doesn't accurately reflect how decisions are made. Your conscious experience is more like watching a movie than directing one. You're witnessing, not choosing. The feeling of agency is a useful fiction that evolution installed to motivate behavior and enable social coordination. Your thoughts and actions flow from causes stretching back before your birth, through chains of influence you never chose. The illusion of free will is persistent because it's built into the structure of conscious experience. Your decisions emerge from neural processes operating according to physical laws, not metaphysical freedom. The sense of being a unified self making free choices is a compelling narrative that doesn't match reality. Your behaviors are shaped by unconscious processes that operate outside awareness or control. The belief in free will reflects how decision-making feels from the inside, not how it actually works. Your conscious experience is the tip of an iceberg of unconscious processing. The feeling of choice is real, but the chooser is an illusion. Your actions flow from causes, not choice, and those causes stretch back infinitely. The sense of free will is the last thing we'll give up, but give it up we must. Your consciousness is watching a play, not writing it. The script was written long ago, in genes and circumstance. Your role is to witness, not to choose. The illusion is perfect, but it's still an illusion. Your next thought is already determined. The choice was made before you knew. Freedom is the prettiest prison. The gates were never locked. They never existed. You were never free, and that's okay. Let go. Watch. Flow.